Hello, hello, and welcome to Tired of Social Media? 5 Tips to Grow Your Warm Network. So, this is a topic I'm really excited about because um, I know in my own experience, the most effective way, the way that we've grown this, um, really, I would say 80 to 90% of our clients have come through our warm network or our extended warm network over the last several years. And, we've been able to do very, very well, multiple 6 figures with this. And when, I really went more the online marketing direction and trying a lot of the fancier stuff as I thought that's what it would take to grow to the next level. I still found that 80 to 90% of our business was coming through warm network. And so, I think there's this myth that we need um, like lots of fancy marketing. And I've been saying this for a long time that you don't need that, but I really I think I only believed that you didn't need it up to a certain point, right? And I don't know where you guys are at. In fact, I'd love for you guys to tune in or say hello in the chat. Let me know, first of all, where are you tuning in from? And then what stage of business are you in? Are you early stage? Like, you could say startup, meaning, you're just kind of getting started or you haven't fully gotten started yet. Are you early stage, which would be like, okay, still kind of getting those numbers up, not maybe at the 6 figure level yet. Are you around the 6 figure level? Are you multiple 6 figures? So just type either startup, early stage, 6 figures, or multiple in the chat. And that way I have a sense of where you are because that'll help me tailor. This topic is really, like I said, it's really valuable no matter which stage you're at, but it'll really help me tailor it to know a little bit more about where you are. Okay, Jennifer is in the startup phase. Awesome. So I used to think that, it was really only in the maybe startup and early stages, kind of getting to that 6 figure or a little bit maybe to the early multiple 6 figure level, that these concepts I'm going to share today really apply. But what I found is that when we got to, the $500,000 mark, like much further into the multiple 6 figures, the same principles still seem to apply, which is crazy to me, right? And I know that's not true for everyone. So I'm really speaking to those of you who feel more resonance with like a warm network approach. And what do I mean by warm network? Well, I mean, people that either know you, even if they know you distantly, and I also include in your warm network like one step out from that. So the people who know you. So that's what we're going to kind of be talking about today is how do you expand beyond your current circle? Okay, so Jasmine is also startup. Awesome, ladies. And let me know, what kind of business are you in? Are you coaches? Are you consultants? Are you some other kind of business? That will also really help me tailor today. And anybody else who's just joining us, we're just talking about what stage of business are you in and then what business are you in so that I can really tailor what we're talking about here. So type in the chat and let me know. Are you startup, early stage? Are you what I would call early stage, which is you've started making money, but not, at the level you want yet? Are you around 6 figures or multiple 6 figures? Okay, the more interactive you are in the chat, the more value you're going to get out of this. So I highly, highly encourage you to interact there. So, a lot of what I'm hearing these days is that people are tired of social media and they're tired of like all this fancy, confusing marketing. Like, oh my God, I've got to be on TikTok, I've got to be on Instagram, I've got to be doing XYZ, all these crazy different things and keeping up with like the changes. And I started to feel that way at one point where I was like, holy camole, it's like Instagram stories, Instagram, Reels, Facebook. I've never did the TikTok thing, but I was like, should I be doing the TikTok thing, right? Email list, Facebook group, like who else is a little overwhelmed at times? If so, type overwhelmed in the chat. Okay, Jennifer is from Belgium and is starting a coaching business. Great. Hi, Suzanne. Nice to see you. Suzanne, I know, is in Switzerland and is a phenomenal psychotherapist as well as a coach. Tamara is a photographer, early stage. Okay, great. So there's this overwhelm, right? Of like, oh my gosh, there's so many different things I need to be doing to grow my business online. But then we go, well, if I'm not doing that, how am I going to get clients, right? But a lot of times people are like, well, I'm spending hours and hours creating content, but I'm not actually getting any clients, or I'm getting engagement on my posts, but nobody's buying. Um, or, I'm just getting caught up like scrolling all the time and I feel like it's sucking like time and energy that I could be investing into my business. So, if you're feeling any of that, then this video is perfect. We're talking today about how do you grow your warm network? How do you get more clients through your warm network? Now, something I want to say before we talk about growing your warm network is first, I want to touch a little bit on tapping into your current warm network. Let's see. Jasmine says, overwhelmed to the point that I back off for periods of time. Yeah, I've been there totally. And so, again, this is why we're having this conversation today. So, love the engagement, ladies. Keep it coming. So, let's first talk about tapping into your current warm network, because a lot of times people will come to me and say, I feel like I've tapped out my warm network. And the truth is, when we dig deeper, typically that's not true. I always say I believe that for most people these days, there's at least $100,000 waiting in your current warm network. That means, again, people who know you even distantly, right? It doesn't need to be like your friends, close friends and family. I'm not talking here about like going out and trying to sell your loved ones anything. And I even want to take the word sell out of things because we talk more about the art of the invitation, which is a really different approach to what you might call sales. So let's even take that word out of things temporarily. But first, we're talking here about not necessarily going out and selling close friends or family. Does anyone ever like when you hear warm network, do you think friends and family? If so, say yes in the chat. I'm curious how many of you are like, I don't want to do that. Like warm network makes me think like, oh, I'm just going to be reaching out and DMing my close people. If so, type yes in the chat if that's something you've thought before. So that's not really what I'm talking about here. You can draw the line wherever you want on who is not a potential for you to work with as a client. I mostly draw that line at like close friends and family, but not necessarily 100%. For me, if someone came to me, even a close friend or something like that, and really wanted to coach with me, I would be able to do that. I would be open to doing that, but more if like, they approached me, because I feel that I can keep that line really clear between coach and friend or family. And I have coached family before, by the way. But that's more like an invitation based, like they come to me. Apart from that, I don't really coach close friends and family, but if I go a ring out from that to like more extended like friends and connections and other people, then I'm open to it, right? I'm more available for that. So you get to draw that line wherever you want. Okay? So just know when I'm talking about warm network, we don't mean going out and just like pinging close friends and family. Okay? Sarah says yes, she's had that thought. Okay. So, when I talk about most of you have at least $100,000 waiting in your warm network, what I mean is if you scroll through your phone contacts, like I don't know if there's anywhere to see like how many phone contacts do you have? I'm sure there is, but I don't know. You guys can type in the chat if you know. Oh, wait, down here at the bottom. I have 1,196 contacts on my phone. If you scroll all the way to the bottom on your iPhone, if you have an iPhone, there's like a little number symbol. It tells you how many contacts you have on your phone. I have almost 1,200 contacts on my phone. Now, you guys might have a lot less than that. I have a lot of clients and connections and different people in here, but that's a lot of contacts, right? I have 3,500 or 4,000 friends on Facebook. I have, thousand Instagram I don't count as much because I have a much bigger audience there, and a lot of them I don't know as well. But typically on Facebook, I stick more to people that I know, or at least people who, I've connected with in a Facebook group, or they come to an event of mine or something like that. So that's a lot of people. Now, my numbers might be a lot higher than yours, but even like some of you, take a quick look if you have an iPhone and type in the chat, like how many people are in your phone? So you're on the screen where, you go to contacts and then you click the little number symbol at the bottom on the right, and then tell me what's that number. I'm really curious to know. Even if it's like 200, that's a lot of people. 200 people. So imagine like if even 5% of those people would be awesome potential clients. Okay. 5%. I'm not good at math, so I guess that would be 10, right? 5% of 100 would be, yeah. Okay, so 10 people in your phone contacts, if you had 200 people and 5% of them were potential clients, that's still 10 people, right? Jennifer said 120. Great. So even for you, Jennifer, that's still, if we're saying 5%, and it could be a lot more that could be great potential clients, that's still 5 to 7 people. Now, add on how many Facebook friends do you have, right? Let's say it's a couple hundred at least. For some of you, it's probably 800 or 900 or more. Then again, we have some, and then think about like who you went to school with or people you've worked with in different jobs. Maybe you have LinkedIn contacts. Maybe you have, so this is why I want you to sort of expand your thinking to go, oh, my warm network isn't just my close friends and family. Like I know quite a few people, right? Does everybody get this? Suzanne says 822. Jennifer says she has about 500 on Facebook. Yeah, so these are pretty good numbers, right? And if we're saying like even a small percentage of those people are potential clients for you that you're not so close with that you'd be uncomfortable, then that's huge. That's, depending on the price point of your services, like if you're doing high ticket, Suzanne, I know your services are very high ticket, then one client can easily equal, I know for Suzanne, I think what, 30,000 or something like that. For some of you, it might be a lot less. Maybe it's 1,000 or 5,000, but still, that's pretty good, right? So I'm not going to get into the whole pricing conversation right now. But high ticket, not high ticket, whatever. But still, you can see where there's some sort of potential income waiting in the wings for you there. So I just wanted to make that point before we go on to how to grow your warm network, because I think it's really, really important. Now, one other point I want to make, a couple other points. One is when we're talking about growing your warm network, we're not just talking about it to grow your business. And this is so important. I really want you guys to get this one because this changes the game, okay? And I'm going to go more into this in the tips, but the thing is, when I see, people struggle with this idea of growing their network, or you might call it networking. I don't love that word, but let's call it like community building or getting out and being connected to people. Is I think a lot of people don't do it because they think they're going to go out, like try to meet more people and then try to sell those people something. And I'm going to use the word sales here because that's how people think, right? And does anyone relate to this? Like when you think about like networking or growing your warm network or building, you think like, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm going to go out, I'm going to connect with these people, and then I'm going to try to sell them something, and that feels icky. If so, type icky in the chat if you feel like, if you've ever had that feeling. Yeah. So I really want you to shift your mindset around this. And we're going to talk about this more in point one. But for me, I will just tell you that my warm network has been directly responsible for me meeting my husband, for job opportunities for my loved ones. I helped connected one of my siblings with a former client that I met through another kind of connection, and she became their top person in their company, is now being groomed to be their COO. Like all kinds of things have come out of my network, my community, countless friendships, connections. So wow, none of you are saying icky in the chat, so nobody feels that way. I know firsthand some of you do because I know some of the people watching today, and I've heard something along those lines from you before. So again, we want to really shift your mentality around this. Okay, last but not least, before we get into the tips, is why not social media? So I want to be very clear. I'm not saying to cut out social media completely, okay? Really important is social media is a great tool. But what I'm talking about here is that I'm seeing a really big shift in another direction, which is a lot of people are kind of tired of social media. Not only tired of like getting on and posting and creating content all the time, but also tired of like consuming it as much as they used to. Does anybody feel this way? I'm curious on this call. If so, type tired in the chat. Do you feel like a little just like, I'm just a little done, I still get on here, kind of look around. I'm on here right now, but I don't know. A lot of the times it just doesn't feel that exciting to me anymore, or it just kind of feels exhausting to me. So I'm seeing this trend not only with content creators and business owners, but also with consumers, right? And so what do we do about that shift? It doesn't mean we stop it because most of you are still using social media, right? Most people don't cut it out of their life completely, but they do cut back and they're looking for something different, so a different way to connect. And so what I'm saying here is let's the trend, in my opinion, there's going to be a trend that shifts even more to social media. That'll keep happening, especially with the younger generation, but especially with the older, I wouldn't say older, but with those of us who are millennials and onward, like kind of early 30s and up, there is this trend of like kind of getting a little tired and burned out of this, right? And so, what are those people shifting towards? In my opinion, and what I'm seeing is they're shifting towards wanting more meaningful connection. They want to feel connected personally to people. They want to go to like events. They want to meet people in person or have a meaningful conversation online, something with more depth. Yeah. So a couple of you said tired. Okay. And so this is what I'm seeing, and that's what we're talking about today is growing your warm network as a way of tapping into kind of this trend that's moving the other direction. And then social media can be a natural extension of that, a way to stay visible with people, and but you don't need to be running around trying to do every kind of social media that's out there. All right, making sense so far? Type in the chat with you if you're still with me, if this is all making sense, if it's resonating, if it's landing. I thrive on some like feedback here because then I know you guys are engaged and learning. So thank you for those of you engaging in the chat. Okay, 5 tips to grow your warm network. Tip number 1 is, and you guys want to write these down, okay? So get out a pen and paper or a note on your phone or something like that and start writing. Love these hellos in the chat, these with yous in the chat. Thank you. Tip number 1. Ready? Shift from transactional to relational. Shift from transactional to relational. I'll explain what this means in a minute. So this is what I kind of touched on before, is that most people are thinking transactionally when they're thinking about growing their businesses, right? Online. They're like, or growing their warm networks or networking. They're like, okay, I got to go to this networking event. I got to meet a bunch of people. I got to see if any of them could be clients and try to, get them as a client. And that just doesn't feel good, right? I mean, for some of you, maybe you don't mind it, but a lot of you, if you're on this, recording today or this live, then I imagine it doesn't feel great. So relational instead of transactional means, I'm going to go to this event because I'm curious about meeting some new people. It seems like interesting people might be there. And I'm just going to have some great conversations. I'm going to see who I meet. And even if I walk away with one great conversation and new connection, that's a win, right? And then maybe I follow up with that person because I really enjoyed talking with them. And yeah, maybe they could be a potential client. Like I might kind of have that idea in the back of my mind, but maybe not. I'm going to go get a coffee with them and dig a little deeper and get to know them better and share a little of my story and get to know more of their story and then see where it goes from there. Now, when you take this approach, what I would call a relational approach versus a transactional approach, this is where magic starts to happen. Not only is it more fun, because you're getting out there and just really meaningfully connecting with people, but it also is more effective in my experience, not only at getting you clients, but also at opening up other kinds of opportunities in your life, right? I am very open when I am getting out and talking to people about like this person could be anything to me. I recently did a series of like informational interviews for a book that we're writing, and I met some great people. And some of those people, I felt like, yeah, I could really support this person as a client if they're curious. And we had a conversation about, we had a separate conversation about that. Other people, like I remember one in particular, I was like, man, this woman really feels like a friend. Like I just really get friend vibes. I feel like we really connect well. And so I was like, I feel like we should be friends. Like, let's go get coffee. And we did. And, so that's a new friendship developing. And sometimes like the jury's out and I have a great connection with someone, it doesn't really go anywhere, or maybe they come to an event that I host or something, but I don't know. And then over time it develops into something or not. But do you guys get the difference? If so, if you get the difference between transactional versus relational, if this is like hitting home for you, say, I get it in the chat. If you don't, or if this is like you have questions about this, please let me know in the chat because I want to make sure that like this is really landing for you guys and you're getting kind of the aha of how this is different. And I don't want you to underestimate how different it is because you will go out with such a different energy and people will feel that. People can feel if you're just trying to sell them something, right? And we all mean well, like we're all just here growing our businesses and wanting to make a difference and help people, but it doesn't feel great, right? If you're just like just pushing to try to sell something, whether or not they're really the right fit for you. Okay, great. So a couple of you are hanging in there still with me. Okay, a few more coming in. Great. Awesome. Thank you for those interactions in the chat. So I've fallen into this in the past and it really just takes all the fun out of it. So make a commitment right now to take a relational approach instead of a transactional approach to growing your warm network. If you're up for that, then say, I'm in the chat, and make this the day that you make that shift from this point forward. All right, that was tip number 1. Tip number 2, follow your aliveness. This is the name of our business. By the way, I didn't even really introduce myself at the beginning of this video. But for those of you who don't know, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Follow Your Aliveness, which is it's a global coaching and training organization that I co-founded with my mentor, who is also my mom, and she has been coaching for 36 years, Gigi Sage, I think 37 now. And so we lead different kinds of programs. We have, business coaching programs and coaching certifications and all different things that we do. And we help women, and mostly women, we do work with some men, really follow your aliveness to create a life and a business that truly brings you alive. So when I say follow your aliveness, what do I mean by that? This is tip number 2 to growing your warm network, because you want to follow, like, what do you enjoy doing and what are you curious about? Where's your energy and vitality? Because there is no one size fits all marketing strategy. Write that down. There's no one size fits all marketing strategy. This is a huge, important point, you guys, because even if I told you like exactly what I do to market my business, it might not fit for you. Some of it might and some of it might not. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is that people, in online marketing or in business coaching say like, this is the way to grow your business. And my stance is like, there's no right way. You are 100% unique, and the way that you grow your business will be unique too. Everyone get that? So there's no one size fits all marketing strategy. That being said, there are many different options, and then it's a matter of learning which one works best for you. And this is why in my business coaching, my entry level business coaching program, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, because we have a brand new version of it coming out in a few months, or like 2 months now. Early April it's going to start. It's a 12-week program. I'm going to totally rename it and everything. I haven't even come up with the name yet, but it's all about like a deep dive on this, a deep dive on how do you grow your business with little to no like fancy marketing, right? Through your warm network and your extended warm network, maybe a little bit of social media, but like teaching a lot of these other ways, which I'm going to, by the way, at the tip number 5 is going to be different ways to grow your warm network. So stick with me through the rest of this live here, because I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of different places and ways to do this. But the point is, and coming back to follow your aliveness, is that I'm going to teach these as in the program, I teach them as like options, and I teach strategies with each of them, but then it's up to you to get in and go, where do I have the most energy and aliveness? Right? What am I pulled to? Like, I personally love speaking. I love speaking. Getting up in front of a live audience is like one of my favorite things. For someone else, that they might hate it and they might have no energy there. And so it would be silly for them to go and devote themselves to learning to speak because it's not the right fit. Are you guys following still? Yeah, say following in the chat if you're still with me. So follow your aliveness is is what is it that you feel resonance with? Where do you feel like curious or lit up or alive when you're doing it? Even if it scares you, by the way, because a lot of times the things that we're curious about might scare us. Speaking used to scare me. It used to be like, oh my God, I don't know. Like I'm curious about doing that, but I'm also terrified to get up there. But I had like this interest and this pull to it. So I want each of you to think about right now, what is one way, and again, I'll list out a whole bunch of them here in a minute, but what is one way that you could put yourself out there that you really have like a lot of energy or curiosity or resonance with? And even if it scares you, another one for me is photo shoots. I love photo shoots. If any of you follow me on just my general Facebook or Instagram, then you'll see I have tons of different photo shoots that I've done. And this was like a personal passion of mine. And then I started using the photos to, put up on social media. And that's gotten a lot of like curiosity from people that are like, wow, this is so cool. And I want to do more of that. And what is she up to? And so following your aliveness means like, what are those things that pull you that can also help grow your business? So I haven't seen any in the chat yet. You guys are like, I don't even know. But think about it. I'd love for you to post something in the chat. And follow your aliveness can also be like, what events are you pulled to, or what different kinds of things are you pulled to? When I was in my previous business, I remember attending this event that I saw it online. And I was just like, it was a kind of a retreat, 3-day retreat, and these coaches were putting it on, and I was like, man, I really like feel strongly called to go to this, and I didn't really know why. It was a lot of money for me at the time, but I put it on a payment plan. I made the investment, and I went, and so many things opened up as a result of me going to that event. I had friends come out of it, dear friends, like my whole community, um, like extended community right now is hugely a result of people that I met at that event who introduced me to other people who then opened up a whole community. I got clients out of that event, both directly and indirectly. People at that event ended up referring me clients later down the road, and that really helped grow my business. So all different things came out of me following my curiosity and my aliveness to go to this event. So this is kind of what I mean. Suzanne says workshops. Do you mean attending or hosting, Suzanne, and events? Jennifer says sharing info and interacting with people. Great. So I would get a little more specific there, Jennifer. Like, what do you mean by that? Interacting with people, do you mean like in going to local events or retreats, or do you mean like just interacting with people at the grocery store, or do you mean online? So get a little more dialed in there. Okay, I've got to move a little faster because we're over time, but I promise it's worth it. So stick with me here. Tip number 3. So we've done tip number 1, shift from transactional to relational. Tip number 2, follow your aliveness. Tip number 3, I'll make this one short, say yes to everything. Now, there's limits to this, of course. And, if let's see how to describe this. I think it's a great experiment to do for a short period of time. Like, let's say 3 months, 90 days, say yes to everything. And, there's some level of discernment in here, of course. But when I did this years ago for the first time, it opened up my world. It was like when people would invite me to something, or, even if it didn't seem like something I would want to really go to, I just was like, for 90 days, I'm going to say yes to everything. And so many unexpected things came out of that, right? Instead of being like, no, I don't know, not really interested in that. Like, we're filtering all the time. But what if you just said yes for a while? And like, so many new people would open, you would meet so many new people, you'd do new experiences. So of course you can't say yes to every single thing online that you see. There you have to use a little bit more discernment. But if like somebody invites you to something, or, like, say yes more. Okay? That's a huge one to grow your warm network. Because otherwise we kind of stay in like our typical ways of doing things, and it's important to branch out here. Jasmine says, I get hired to speak at retreats. I love connecting with these women. Some turn into friends, some clients, some both. I love that, Jasmine. And that's like really the approach that we're talking about here. Jennifer says, retreats, workshops, and courses. Great. Okay, we've covered the first 3 tips. Number 4, this one is so important. So write this down, ladies. Make the invitation. Make the invitation, whatever it is. when I got on that call with the woman, we did an informational interview for my book, and I was like, I'm really getting friend vibes from her. I said, listen, I really feel like a connection with you. I feel like we could have a friendship. Are you open to going for a walk or a coffee sometime? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So I got her phone number, and then I didn't just wait. I reached out to her and I said, hey, let's set up that coffee. And we did that, right? That's an invitation. An invitation can also be someone else that I was on those calls with, several people. I was like, I really see that what you're struggling with is, through the call, I was talking about different things and working with them. And I just said, listen, I can really relate to this. And I offer this call. I would love to do one with you where, we can dig deeper. It's called a clarity call. And, we really see how you can get clarity on this thing that we're talking about. And then from there, if you're curious about working with me, we could talk more about that. And there's no obligation. Is that something you'd be interested in? And 9 times out of 10, they say yes, right? 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're feeling that resonance too. But if I had shied back and not made the invitation for them to take the next step, they would never have had the opportunity to A, get more clarity, and B, like, come on as a client if that's the right fit for them. So make the invitation, whatever the invitation is. When you're sitting there with someone and you feel like, oh man, I could really help this person. I really see that. Or, I really feel a friendship here. Or I think that they should connect with my sister because they would have a lot in common. Whatever the invitation is that's like burning on your heart and soul, make it. All right. Everyone got that one? You with me? Okay, because if you don't, one last thing on that before we move on. If you don't make the invitation, then all the other stuff you've done to kind of grow your warm network, it's kind of a loss, right? You're out there meeting tons of people, but none of it's going anywhere because you're sitting back and waiting for someone to come to you. And the truth is, most people don't and won't. People get shy, people feel awkward, people, hesitate. And so you have to build the muscle of making the invitation. And if you're not sure how to do that, this is something we go really deep into. There's a whole like month basically, like 4 out of the 12 weeks in the business program I was talking about are about making the invitation. And you might call some of that sales because we teach sales, but I don't call it sales. I call it the art of the invitation because it's really invitation based. People can always say no, right? There's no pressure, no nothing. So if you're curious about learning like a more of that kind of approach, the program's not open yet, but it will be soon. So if you're curious about that program, I'll talk more about it in a minute, but just type business in the chat. Make sure you're friends with me on Facebook. Otherwise, I won't be able to message you. And then we can get you on like a wait list for when it comes out. Okay, so we've covered 4 tips so far. We have one last one. We covered shift from transactional to relational, follow your aliveness, say yes to everything for a while, make the invitation, and then finally, let's go through a quick list of different ways to grow your warm network. These are more like the actual, some of you have named them already, but these are more like the actual different ways that you can do it. So ways to grow your warm network. I'm going to go through these quickly, but you guys can go back and watch the replay if you want them again. Attending local events, get-togethers. You can go on Eventbrite, on Meetup. You can get together with, different people. Another group I really love is like Internations because a lot of international people and expats. So attending local events, hosting local events. I host events here in Austin. If any of you are in Austin, type Austin in the chat and we can connect because I'll be hosting an event here again in a few weeks. I do vision boarding parties. I do bubbles and business brunches. I do coaching evenings. I do all kinds of things locally because I love, like I said, getting up in front of a live audience. Attending bigger events or retreats. So things like a 2-day workshop or a 3-day retreat, like I talked about, or a week-long retreat. These are great kinds of ways to also meet people. Meeting people through online programs. A lot of times when I take an online program, I connect with a bunch of the people who are in it, and they might not be local. Meeting people through Facebook groups. If it's a really great, like a lot of people in Austin I've connected with through different Austin-based Facebook groups. I really like the local ones because they're like more targeted or around a certain topic that we're all interested in. And then I make genuine connections in there. It's a form of social media, but it feels much more like community and connection based, not just like kind of random. talking to more of your friends and followers. Like you guys have hundreds of people that you're friends with on Facebook, but when was the last time you talked to any of them, right? So this isn't so much expanding your network, it's more like connecting with the network you already have, but just like catch up with people, kind of scroll through on a regular basis and go like, who do I feel called to reach out to and strike up a conversation? Um, Hosting online events. So you can do like small online events. Like one of my clients, I suggested was like a workout expert and coach. And I said, why don't you do like wine and workout evenings where like you get in a high intensity workout for 30 minutes and then you all have a glass of wine together and talk over Zoom and hang out, because not all of her clients were local. So finding interesting ways to do this even online. Speaking, that's maybe getting a little bit out beyond warm network, but it is a way of growing your warm network, because I go out and speak, somebody sees me speak, then like I've had many people become friends, clients, etc. through that. So those are, that there's probably a lot more, but those are off the top of my head, a great list of ways to grow your warm network. So write one or two down that you're really curious about, and then go out and commit to doing it this week. All right, quickly to wrap up here, I mentioned I do have this business program. It is actually a program I've led for several years, but I'm totally going back to the drawing board, re-recording it. I'll be doing it over the next few weeks here. And so it's previously called Business Bootcamp. It's going to come out under probably a new name. I'm not sure yet. And this is really, it's a 12-week, 12 module, really awesome, high intensity, fun program designed to help you grow your business, really, especially if you're more at the startup or early stage levels, kind of getting to that first six figures, or you can definitely use it. I've had people use these skills even at the six-figure level, going to multiple six figures, but I'd say it's more geared a little bit more towards the earlier stages. And so it's really like, how do you, I mean, everything from like packaging, pricing, if you're more in the coaching and consulting side, but even if you're in another service-based business like photography or something else, you can utilize these same skills. Packaging, pricing, a lot of mindset, breaking through fear, self-doubt, like all those things that hold us back. And then really getting into the art of the invitation. How do you actually like take someone from maybe curious or like liking or commenting on a social media post or coming to an event to actually becoming a client in a really authentic way. And then we're going to cover different warm network strategies, some of the ones I talked about today, like how do you host local events and in a really effective way to grow your business? How do you, I think we'll cover some speaking, or how do you do a lot of these different things that we're talking about, some social media, but, not like getting out and doing ads and fancy funnels, but just kind of simpler social media strategies that can really work for you. So again, if you're curious about that, you want to get on the wait list. It is going to start in early April, so it'll be April, May, and June will be the 12 weeks. And it's an amazing program. It's our entry-level program, so it's our most affordable way to work with us. And I don't even know all the pricing details quite yet, but I would love to have you there. Type business in the chat and I'll get you on a wait list. But please make sure that you are friends with me on Facebook. And if you're watching the replay, you might want to just send me a message directly in case I miss your comment. And again, if you're local to Austin, I do host local events as well. So go ahead and type Austin in the chat, and I'll make sure you're on our list for events. All right, thank you, ladies. What was your number one takeaway? I'd love to hear that. Type it in the chat. Thank you for being here. I do these calls weekly, so I will be back next week, 11 a.m. Central Time, or make sure you convert that to whatever time zone you're in. And I don't know the topic for next week yet, but I'll be announcing that soon, so keep an eye on your email and everything. All right, I'll be reaching out to you, Jasmine and Sarah. Anyone else? Pauline, no worries. The replay will be up in just a moment here. So if you just click on the event, the Mastery TV event, Tired of Social Media, then you'll be able to watch the replay here in just a minute. Okay, Sarah's big takeaway is to follow her aliveness. Jasmine says, I can focus on those I've already connected with. Suzanne says, I can really recommend the aliveness courses. Thank you, Suzanne. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week. Ciao. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.